What did it mean to me growing up with Holocaust survivors? To me, it felt like confusion. I felt like I was the only one in the world being affected by it. I felt so isolated in my feelings as well. You know, I couldn't express it to anybody. I couldn't pour it out. I felt it was so painful that they didn't want to discuss it. And I think deep down inside, I wanted to know, and I just couldn't muster the courage to ask.
When I was 3 years old in 1967, I was at my aunt and uncle's apartment, and I knew that something was different than the ordinary family. And I could feel like a pain in my chest. I just saw the sorrow in their eyes and in their faces.
My father was more carefree. My mother lived in anxiety and fear, and so she was very overprotective, and she was a very tough woman. She really was. I would remember my mother crying to someone on the phone every morning. There was a sense of something horrible happened in the past, but when my mother started to cry, I would start to cry. I went to Hebrew school. I was bar mitzvahed. My parents and their friends spoke in Yiddish. I wanted to be more American, and I was battling with myself which way to go. So that's how I grew up, shy and by myself, and sports. That gave me a lot of confidence, which I didn't even know I had.
I can still do it.
Yeah, look at that. Was it enough? No, because there's more to life than sports. My parents weren't aware of what was going on inside me. They were more into their own world of survival. They met in Bergen-Belsen. Shortly after being liberated, they married, and they had my brother in 1947.
My father and mother didn't know each other in the camp, so they had men on one side and women on the other side. They never met, never mingled. So then when they were liberated in 45 by the British, everybody came to the courtyard. According to my mother, people picked partners without love, just to rebuild the population. My mother met a doctor, and she met my father, the carpenter. And she took my father, the carpenter, and years later she tells my father she should have taken the doctor. I think they fell in love later, but they weren't in love when they got married. The Holocaust kept them together.
After they were married, they went back to Poland to look for family, and they found my aunt, Manya, my mother's youngest sister.
1939, when the Germans came in, they took me right away. I was just a kid, 12 years old. And my parents never saw me again. I went to Czechoslovakia. The life was something nobody should know about it, nobody. I was liberated from the Russian army, the whole camp. And we walked. And every time we saw people, it says, oh, maybe it's my sister, maybe it's my brother. Very, very anxious to find family. I was in Poland, and somebody knocks on the door. It was my sister with my brother-in-law. And we smuggled ourselves to Germany. We lived together till I got married. That was the day.
They were there for 5 years, and they built a life over there and did the best they can. It wasn't easy.
We had a relative in Beverly Hills, Abe Byron, and so he sponsored my parents to come to the United States with me.
They moved to Los Angeles in 1950, and I was born in 54.
The parents were having trouble supporting 2 kids because the finances were not good. And so Fred was temporarily put up where somebody else could take care of him. The only thing I couldn't figure out, which I never asked, why him and not me or both of us.
I would say my brother was the favorite. They shared that history back in Bergen-Belsen. I think there's a special bond because of that. And with me, I'm the Americano. Now, I have another person who grew up in our family, and his name is Barry Levine, and we all considered him a brother. I say I have two brothers.
I just fit in. They were so friendly and so concerned about me, and I truly called them my second set of parents. I tried my best to cheer them up. They were filled with horror pictures in their minds about the Holocaust. And they were sad a lot of times, really sad, which we could all pick up very easily.
My mother was dealing with her past. There were the nightmares, Gestapo, Nazis, Gestapo.
So you're coming out of concentration camp, where's the therapist to help people cope? As far as I know, they didn't get any. So whatever happened to them in Germany, they brought here.
My mother said, "You're lucky. You have a mother. I don't have my mother." I don't even know where my mother is buried.
I feel Fred experienced that trauma a lot more than Martin did. He went with their grief and sorrow. He lived it.
I didn't allow myself to stay with negativity. It was like, not me.
In the past, I was in various businesses. And when my parents took ill, I pretty much stopped working to take care of them. Now they're gone, and my passion now is volunteering. The food pantry, it's my way of helping out. I didn't want to be someone who was on the outside looking in. This was instilled in me by my mother. She never let anybody who come in the house leave without eating something.
The constant statement was, Fleisch, Fleisch, you have to eat. Come on, come here, eat.
At least I got the lamb chops and the tongue. Ugh. And I know these Jewish foods.
I've been volunteering here for 18 years. I discovered many of the kids playing basketball were not playing in any leagues, and I started to build a program where kids had their uniforms and they got their trophies and their achievements are right here.
Well, I'm giving you a certificate for all your great work in the park and for working to get Nick Young here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, keep going.
Should we get a wait for 10 minutes?
Hi. I donate platelets at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center because my father took ill. He was in the ER, and they gave him 6 pints of blood from strangers who came in, and that saved his life.
He has donated 273 times, and this achievement makes him the donor who has the most number of donations in the history of the blood donor program. Mr. Fred Zaidman.
Except for all of us, really, because if it wasn't for us, there were a lot of people would be in a lot of trouble. So God bless everybody. Thank you so very much. And let's get back on that table. I have a beautiful dog, a Boston Terrier named Stella. And I'm in a place in my life where following my passion of helping others and having good people in my life. Everything in my life is sort of settled, and the one part of it that wasn't settled was knowing my family ancestry. I wanted to see if I could find a living relative. I heard they were at Auschwitz, but I owed it to them that I at least search. I felt compelled to do it for my parents. Up here is my father, Wolf, and my mother, Renee. I just had to know who's there beyond my parents, who are my grandparents. I wanted to break through that wall, that mystery. I thought my family tree was a twig, but I didn't expect to find anything. What I discovered was a few of the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh generation. And it's something. One of my really great discoveries is the name of my great-grandfather. Here's the birth of Jacob Wolf Berensflag in 1847 in Radomsko, Poland. My great-grandmother, Hanna Frymeta, and on the other side of the family, my great-grandfather, Koppel Zeitman,
born in 1843.
This one happens to be my father's older brother, Fischl. And that's my mother's youngest brother, Tadek, who was killed in a concentration camp. He was shot in the head only because he was singing a happy song. He learned that he was going to be liberated the next day. Somebody reported him to a Nazi, and they came over and they shot him. Now I have two pieces of the puzzle. You know, now I want to get the rest of the piece. I want the whole family.
I would say that he just misses my parents and wants to hang on to someone that could be connected. My parents are still alive. So I think he's still dealing with my parents' death and hasn't released it. But he's driven emotionally to do this research, and that's okay. It's just not my calling for me.
My brother doesn't acknowledge his past, his Holocaust experience, his heritage. He is removed from that. And I would say I'm the complete opposite.
I'm glad I'm opposite for me. I wouldn't want to be trapped in the past.
Does it bother me that my brother has no interest? Yeah, it bothers me. It bothers me, but I try not to let it get to me. It's just, it is what it is, and I just move on.
Hello.
Today, I visit a half a dozen Holocaust survivors because I feel very comfortable being with survivors. I understand them, I feel at home. Adela is like my member of the family.
Today is really my lucky day that I meet two guys in my house when I'm always so lonely. Red Zeidman and Philip Rauscher, two people what I know since I was beautiful and young.
You know what? My father was in Benjamin.
In Chelach.
My father was in Chelach or Benjamin?
Chelach.
Okay. There were a lot of Poles who were very courageous during the war.
Poles were not courageous. Maybe in the East.
No, there weren't some Poles who helped the Jews,
No.
Hid the Jews?
No.
No?
No.
The photo of my grandparents is number one. I don't know what they look like except for one grandmother. There's nothing to indicate that they were actually alive in this world. So finding a document is very important to me. They'll prove that they actually lived. I think it would bring some kind of completion in who I am.
I think he's trying to find love from his grandparents. He thinks grandparents are angels. And I think he's trying to find the angel in his life.
They're my link to the past. Hopefully I can find a photo of my grandparents. But I would accept whatever I could find.
Hi, Barbara. I'm still trying to land down to earth.
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm not all.
It's in person.
I'm here, but I'm not all there because you two are the only ones that I've met from my father's side of the family.
And we're all Zeidmans in one way or another. They all came from Poland. Does anybody know anything that happened to any of them?
Auschwitz is what I hear.
So I imagine that your parents never discussed what happened to them, their incarceration.
My father did not. You know, I didn't have the guts either. You know, honestly, I didn't have the courage to ask him. I got a glimpse of his history. He had bypass surgery, and he was crying. I've never seen my father cry. And he was telling the nurse, my mother went into the fire. That was the first time I've heard him talk about his parents.
Stella.
Pretty cousins.
No, thank you.
No.
I dropped her down to number one cousin.
I need to stand on my tippy toes.
I got new relatives, which is an amazing feeling, you know, from a
a side of the family that I never knew. Wow. Yeah. I was first told about this several years ago by my father's first cousin in Australia, but I wasn't able to connect it until late last year. And that is my father's first cousin, Isser Bieri. He became the first director of military intelligence for the IDF and the Haganah. Isser's father would be my grandmother's brother. Isser Bieri. There he is, tall and handsome. 1901 to 1958, director of the Haganah Intelligence Service. There's the man. I discovered Isser had a son. His name is Itai. I shot him off an email explaining who I am, and I'm waiting to hear back. My aunt, Manya, and I have been having frequent talks, and she has opened up that part of the world. When I go to Poland for the first time, I don't want to be rushed. I don't want to be bothered by anybody. I want to feel...
I want to be on your own.
I want to be on my own to feel it.
He wants to go to visit where we used to live. I don't blame him. You know, memories. That's what he wants.
You and Martin and Bergen-Belsen.
Yes.
I think it's going to be very painful for him. I hope that he discovers just where we came from, our humble beginnings.
The city is there. The people are not there. The Jewish people.
Willkommen in Warschau, meine Damen und Herren. Bitte bleiben Sie noch so lange angeschnallt sitzen.
We just landed on the moon. That's what it's like for me. I landed on the moon.
Welcome to Warsaw, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm looking for anything and everything related to my family. My father's side, my father was the only one who survived. He never spoke about anything. He just clammed up. So each discovery gives me that extra air of oxygen. It means a lot to me.
So what do you know about your father?
His parents, Moshe Zeidman, and he was married to Rivka Birnzweig. And Moshe's father is Kappel.
Where did you find this?
Ancestry.com.
Which means nothing. It's a very difficult situation with your family because the people are from one place, but the registration is in other archives. So you have to go all over to see even if there's nothing.
It's like the borderline between a few regions. So if you live here, the record goes there. If you live 5 kilometers apart, the record goes to the other.
It's important, the source of information, which is my mother told me, my dad told me. I saw it in a book. And then, of course, which book? I saw it on Ancestry. Okay, but where?
Right,
because
you have
it's
to
not
verify.
The last, it's not the source.
Were any photos taken at the same time when the document was being written?
This is a really problematic thing. Photos were not very often attached to documents. Nowadays, we're accustomed to driver's license, and before the war, photos were taken as private property. Family photos in official documents only in very rare occasions, usually passports from the 30s onwards, university applications, and sometimes army registration for officers. And after the war, it gets more common.
I have to say that, one of my main goals is to have my family members acknowledged as actually existing in this world. Right now, it's an imagination. There's not a grave, there's nothing.
For whom do you need the grave? For the
grandparents? For my uncles?
If there is a grandson speaking about this, there is a real sign of existence.
I know.
No, but this is important. We are forgetting what's real, and if there is no grave, there is no grave. So you try to find whatever else you can find. If you cannot find, that's also okay, because you still know that the grandfather existed. So you are the one who's giving them the shape with whatever you know. a story that you can share with the others.
I think you're bringing your philosophy of intangible heritage or honor. I think for other people, like honoring has different ways.
I don't agree with you because you honor your parents with your life.
Yeah, I know that.
This is
I know
not-
that I know.
It's like, it cannot be more.
My parents came from Benzin.
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 It's
Benzin.
here, not so far from Krakow, close to German principalities.
Right.
Very interesting.
So where did they come from before they got here? So that's the next question, right?
Jewish issues were like taboo after '68. There is this feeling of missing.
That's the reason why I'm here, Poland. It's because I'm missing something. Obviously.
And you even don't know. Do you know what you are missing?
Well, it's hard to put it in words. My world stops where my father begins. How did they live? Were they happy, unhappy? So that's why I'm determined to at least come here to Poland and step on the same ground.
Maybe this fascination also trying to get back to the world that was before this huge tragedy. Yeah? All those who perished were citizens of Poland, so they felt betrayal.
Betrayal, I think there's a stronger word than betrayal.
Why my country was so weak to let such things happen. I can't reverse.
No, you can't.
I can just talk about it.
There's a very strong pull that is making me go forward. And this datal here is what I imagine it used to be. This is what I've been waiting for 61 years to experience. Yeah. Excuse me. I'm going on the wrong side of the street. When I got to Benjamin, I was really surprised to meet survivors and second generation like me. They invited me to the first Shabbat dinner in 75 years in a synagogue in this old apartment building. When Mrs. Lior started the blessing, I sensed my grandmother and my relatives with me. That was one of the most profound moments in my entire life. Adam! Oh, how are you? Finally! Finally we meet. Mwah! 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 I discovered Adam on the internet. Thank you for coming. While I was searching for a genealogist in Benjamin. You know what? This is the trip of my lifetime. Oh, fresh air. Fresh air. Benjamin air. And now Adam is going to help me find photos, more information on the Zeidman family. There's the castle. Benjamin Castle.
And near the castle is the synagogue before the war. This corner before the war is a Jewish cemetery. Now only the tree.
Right here?
Yes, here.
Adam, my top priority is to find a photo of my grandparents, aunts and uncles that were murdered during the Holocaust.
It's everything the people who named the Zeidman. Bendin, born, your father only lives.
Żytno.
Żytno. Wolf is your father, tak?
Wolf is my father. Are you holding the entire records?
This is
the entire? Or can there be names, information missing? Maybe.
No.
This is
everything.
Where are the best places I should be looking?
I tomorrow in Radomsko.
What I think of Cafe Jerusalem. The Jewish ghetto here in Belgium began in 1942?
In 1942, in October, yes.
In October. Okay, so my father was in the ghetto. About how many people were?
From Belgium?
Yeah.
About 25,000.
Wow. 25,000?
Ich würde suchen, dir gleich zu Herren, als die sonst mir der Lippe.
They give order to the people to go out of the houses and Jewish people to go in. Where there was one family, there come in 2 or 3 families. In 2008, we decided to come here because it's 60 years for Israel. And we went to the mayor and he said, I will bring my army.
It's a memory. It's a memory. Shimchan, are you okay?
Look, to hear here in this place the Hatikva singing by 180 soldiers on this place where 30,000 people was taken out to Auschwitz. This is our victory. Okay? This is our victory. We don't have another victory.
I know how you're feeling.
Yeah.
You really, I can't even talk. This is where my father was born, and I think my grandfather was born here.
Two hours, we back in this place. Maybe this woman find for you, maybe first documents. Waiting many years. Please wait 2 hours.
I can wait 2 hours. Yes.
Now we go.
It's very exciting. It's mind-boggling to me that there was once a synagogue here, and now it's all gone, and it's replaced by a telephone company. When I saw my aunt's name, Kurtla, which I knew from research, but when I actually saw the birth certificate, it put me in a different world. It kind of slowed down. I'm reading Kurtla Zeidman. There's something that proved that she had lived. And then I hear, oh, here's Lieb Zeidman, and here's Freinmeta. I'm still trying to get over the shock of seeing Kurtla. Everything else became a dream.
Fischer Zeidman.
I still feel I have to go back because I didn't get everything.
I think maybe 41 is like this. Maybe 30 is destroyed.
This used to be the Zeidman family home, and now it's a parking lot. This is the building that sat next to the building my grandparents owned, lived, rented. Come visit the Zeidman home. Come on, come inside, take off your shoes. Here it is. It's a fucking parking lot. Come on. This is unbelievable. Very upset. You know what they did? They erased my family history. You know, destroyed all the buildings where they used to live. One is a high-rise, one is a parking lot.
history is closed. Now you open. No, this is the symbol. Every time it's in your head is the family, everything is closed. Today, open the history. This is like symbol. This is, you know.
(1939) 1945. So this is in memory of the victims of the Holocaust from Dunsko. Did you see how the weeds are and the grass are at least 3 feet high? A lot of grass. Nobody cut the grass.
This is the problem.
The problem
is money.
I'm in Żytno, Poland, where my father was born, my grandfather, sibling. I wish my father was still here so I could show him what his old town looks like. It's kind of bittersweet. I didn't expect it to be so beautiful and peaceful. Very community-oriented. Now that's a building. I bet you that's been around since my mother's day. I like that building. I'm sure my mother, if she were alive and here today, she would point out, I know that building and I know that building. Yeah, I'm getting a really comfortable feeling that this is, you know, she's been here. I'm looking for the street where my mother used to live. And it's across the street from what they call a gymnasium. Here it is, Lukasiskiego. Hallelujah. So I'm looking for number 25. It's completely different. These are all modern buildings. If they want to come back and see my mother's history, they're not going to find it. If somebody mentions the gymnasium, here it is. A close friend of mine, Adela Mannheimer. Her apartment buildings, obviously it's gone, but it would have been right over here. And Adela would see my mother going to work. Oh, it's bringing back a lot of memories of stories that I've been told. Like to destroy the building. I'm really determined to find this place, and that place being the Dąbrowa Górnicza Cemetery. Jewish cemetery, which I hear is very, very small. There it is, right over there. Right there. Letters are faded. But what I can do is fix this one. And I can do be something if this was a relative, wouldn't it? There. That was good. That was a good one. Probably a prayer. At first I thought there wasn't anything here, which is pretty much the story of my trip. Well, my mother's home is gone, my father's home is gone, And I thought this was gone, but it's not, it's still here. It's a really nice cemetery. It's obvious that they really care. Clean, grass is cut. I just noticed something very, very disturbing. If I'm correct, I'm looking at a Nazi insignia. Unacceptable. I'm not going to stand for that. Son of a bitch. Can I show you something quick? Can you clean that off?
I don't know.
I know you don't know.
No.
I know. But you can clean it off, wash.
What?
Wash off, clean. No more. No more of this. See this? Off.
Are you stand, Ale?
Off, okay? Everything nice I said about this cemetery, I'm taking back. It's hard for me to picture that my mother was here. Here I am, and I'm seeing it for the first time. My aunt, Manya, told me a story that there's the two lines, the one that goes straight into the gas chamber and the one that goes into labor. And my grandparents were in the line to go to the gas chamber. My mother was with them, and she didn't want to let go. She was holding on to them. And if they were going to go in the gas chamber, she was going to go with them. And there was an argument, there was a struggle, and my mother went to the other line, and my grandparents went straight into the gas chamber. I heard the words, but I couldn't get the feeling until now. This is good. This is the closest I'll ever be to my grandparents. They're right here. If I could, I would stay here for a very, very, very long time. I want to say I love you. Zeitman, it would be Rivka and Moshe. Official Zeitman. That's my uncle. In the book of names, I was able to find 2 uncles and an aunt. Leib is my uncle. That's the firstborn. Franya is my father's sister. 1918 seems about right.
Wow. The place of death unknown.
Unbelievable. So they're not missing. They're not. Their name isn't gone in the wind. They did live on this planet.
It could be.
Can you look that up? So hopefully he can find something. And even if he doesn't find anything, I can eliminate, Auschwitz. The fact that my mother did not have numbers indicates that she was here temporarily. My grandparents went straight to the ovens.
Yeah.
So the ones that went straight and were killed in the ovens were not recorded.
Yes.
All right, so that makes sense.
Before the liberation, Germans burned more than 90% of documentation.
More than 90%?
More than 90%.
It's like they gathered everybody together. They're all gone.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
I got an idea of what they went through. And my parents didn't want to talk about it. Would you want to tell your child how you were humiliated for 4 years? Wondering if you're going to live minute to minute. Your parents and your siblings murdered. My mission now is to retract those steps, find out what their experience is.
I remember this country as a child. There was nothing. It all started with survival. Yad Vashem is to ensure that the memories of their relatives will be kept forever in one place. It's a memorial to the names.
Most of the Jews living in Benjin were gassed and cremated in Auschwitz, except those who were murdered inside the ghettos. In Benjin, every second person was a Jew. 50%, half of the city's population was Jewish. So we can say it was a Jewish town. The process of annihilation began with confiscation of all property, concentration, ghettoization, and then deportation to the extermination camp. And I would say the Jews in Poland were murdered twice. First, the spiritual murder, and then the physical murder. And I can't tell you which was worse. I think both. Those who were capable of being slaves could, for the time being, survive. But the minute the Jews could not provide work, they were physically too weak, they had to die. This is the German logic. They were not so orderly, but they had some kind of logic inside the system.
When a Jew arrives in Auschwitz and they choose him to work, they tattoo a number.
All Jews, until 1944, with no exception, who was selected to life, were tattooed. All Jews, with and non-Jews. And the permanent rule was 75 to 90% immediately to the gas chambers, 5 to 15% to become slaves. Survival was not dependent on your talents, on your education. It was a mere luck, pure luck.
So Moshe Zeidman, this is your grandfather?
Yes.
And Rivka, your grandmother?
Yes.
Leib Zeidman is your uncle?
Right.
And do you know that his wife is survived?
No.
Sally Frocht, she's a widow of Leib Zeidman.
She survived?
Yeah,
Was that from a testimony or from...
No, she applied for searching for the documents to International
Looking
Testing
for family.
Service. Yeah.
My father was alive, he'd flip out. That his brother's wife
survived.
And
also, I
would
think I also found picture of the brother. This is small photos, like passport photos used by Gestapo in Belgium.
You think that's him?
This is her document. It's very interesting. So her maiden name is Grunwald, and Frocht, it seems to me, is from the second marriage after war. And she's Auschwitz survivor. She was Zeidman. So this is her address in Miami. So you have an address. You can check it in USA.
I did research, but she's passed away, and apparently she doesn't have any children. So it was a dead end. It's hard because Sima at the Yad Vashem is convinced that this is my uncle, my father's eldest brother. I so desperately want to find his photo, and here he is. Right now, I'm going to consider him my uncle.
He's my uncle.
It would be great if I had a photo of my grandparents.
Here is Itai with Tova. They were 2 years, נכון? הם היו שנתיים?
Itai! Itana!
Itai!
Mishpacha, how are you? It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
You
It's very nice that you have come to Israel.
Yes, it's my first time. You know
Yeah,
that.
after so many years, after 62 years.
I know. I feel bad.
Yeah. This is a sign of good luck for a house and the people living in a house. And this is for Fred for the first time that he visits Israel.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Our cousin Adam.
Yeah.
He's our first cousin.
Adam, I'm Fred. I'm Fred. Pleasure to meet you. Adam Sneer was the personal bodyguard for Golda Meir and for Yitzhak Rabin. I felt very, very proud to be among this prestigious people in my family. Let me tell you something. I have no photos of my grandparents.
Here. That's our grandmother. She was married to Mendel.
To Mendel.
Yeah.
That's my grandmother's brother. So it was a huge find. Later in the week, I was invited to Itana's parents' yurtzeit. Itana is Itai's wife, and the yurtzeit was at a kibbutz.
They came on one boat from Europe and got married here in Israel, and that was the last time they saw their parents. All of them died in the Holocaust in concentration camp.
Afterwards, we met at a cousin's home. Ty, do you have any hobbies now?
Now I have one hobby. Etana was in the army. Her mother saw me and told her, look at that nice guy. Because Etana is quite high. And her mother was always worried that she will not find a boyfriend at her size. And ever since, we are together. Now it's over 60 years.
I was 21 and he was 22. Like two kids. It's Ita and me.
Thank you again for everything.
Thank you so much.
Have a good trip.
I felt like I walked into my family's home. They were accepting, they were very loving, they were really wonderful people. Her grandmother was my grandmother's sister.
My grandparents came here before the Holocaust to Israel. I was happy that I had grandparents here.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Otherwise, you
have no idea.
It ends on the grandparents.
That's right. Nitsa knew her grandmother.
Yeah.
She lived with her, kissed her. I don't even know what mine looks like. That's why, my need is different than her need. These are our great-grandparents, our grandmother's parents.
I lost track on them.
I'm filling you in.
I found a lot of stuff for you. My grandmother, grandfather, my grandmother is taking me on her knees.
Are you saying that's my grandmother's sister?
Yeah.
She looks like my father.
All of you have the same face.
It's striking. No, this is 100%.
Yeah.
It's historical. I found two relatives since I came to Israel. Menachem and your grandmother, Chava.
Yeah.
Brother and sister to my
Well,
grandmother.
It's the only picture of Chava.
It's the only picture.
Of Chava.
Well, all you need is one. Oh, this is great. This happens to be perhaps the greatest surprise of my research. The most profound, which is a testimonial of my grandmother's death. 06/01/43. Status murdered. I can now light a candle, a yurtzeit candle on her death date. My grandmother, Rivka, like my other grandmother and grandfathers, went into the ovens at Auschwitz, and the ashes at the bottom were taken into a mass grave. I'm thinking, visualizing, they got off the train, and they're in line, and the Gestapos are all over with rifles, and they weren't sure that they were going to live or die. As a result, I grew up with my father. He kept most of it to himself, but now that I found this piece of information, it solidifies what I thought was going on with him.
Your mother was liberated at the main camp, Bergen-Belsen. This is this place here right now. And your father was liberated also in Bergen-Belsen, but not at the main camp, but on the barracks camp. And he met your mother. And when they get married here, your brother was one of more than 1,000 children who were born here. Most of the survivors were the sole survivors of their families, and so they were happy to build a new family, a new home. That's why I guess they fell in love immediately.
I was under the impression that my mother met my father in the hospital. He was sick, tuberculosis.
Yes,
and
okay.
she was a nurse.
And when, do you know, at May, June, or?
Don't have a clue. Well, they married her in August.
Yeah, very early.
Yeah, on the 25th, right?
Yes.
25th. So knowing my mother, they could have met on the 24th.
Yes. Bergen-Belsen was not a typical camp where prisoners came in first. You see, his father was first brought to Auschwitz, and then from Auschwitz that he was brought to Buchenwald. And from Buchenwald, he was brought to Mittelbau-Dort, and from Mittelbau-Dort-Elrich, he was brought then to Bergen-Belsen.
It's a holding area.
Yeah,
it's a place where they went to die.
Yes, more than 50,000 people died, and about 13,000 prisoners died after the liberation. This is the beginning of the former DP camp. We are not allowed to make photographs because it's a military training area. The conditions in the main camp were really bad, and they made a mass grave for those people who died. There's nothing left from the former women's camp, so to say, no remains.
We're not sure if my mother was over here. There's 2 huts, right?
No, 1 hut.
1 hut. Well, this is the area.
Yeah, this is the area, that's right. Fred's mother and Anne Frank could have met because Anne Frank was also in this area of the women's camp, but if they were in the same hut, I cannot really say it because we have no documents.
I have a pretty good idea what my parents were going through, where they lived, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow where we're going to finish looking at all the records there in Bergen-Belsen.
His grandparents and his father or his mother were forced to leave their home to a ghetto. A person named Mr. Wall was taking all of their stuff.
Furs. Gold.
Silver things, maybe a German neighbor. And this is a picture of your mother.
This one's hard to look at. Their eyelids are deep, and it's like her soul was taken away. Okay.
In this list is the name of your father appears. A list of Polish Jews.
In 1945.
Yes.
This is another document which says Mr. Zartmann was here, and we are very lucky that we have this kind of source for you.
My mother stayed in Bergen-Belsen at least 1 month, according to this.
Yeah, or maybe some weeks more.
More than
1 to 2 months.
1
maybe.
to 2 months. That's a long time in Bergen-Belsen.
Especially during this time, it was very hard to survive because it was winter and most of people were dying.
And my mother survived, walking among the dead people and watching them die. And so these are things that she kept to herself and never talked about.
Yeah. Now, we know that not every bride has the possibility to have a wedding dress on her own. So they were changing, they given the wedding dresses to other brides. Some of these were made here in the camp. Here she is pregnant. beautiful picture.
It's like two stories, one of torture and then a story of survival and hope. I always dreamed of going back there and helping out to make sure everybody was safe or survived. I don't know how they made it, but they certainly did. It's a miracle. I lost my dear aunt. Her passing away is the end of her generation, my parents' generation. They're all gone now. I loved her. She was very dear to me. It's still fresh in my mind, and just talking about it, you know, I could feel it. I think I found my cousin, David Markowitz. I found a photo of his grandmother, and I do a separate search for Huda's Kochman, and I noticed she's in the family tree. His mother and my mother were first cousins. And, you know, he had the same reaction. It's like, wow. And now there are plans for us to meet in Atlanta. Hello, cousin dear. What took you so long? Hi.
60 years.
Where you been? Yeah. I never thought I'd come to Atlanta to actually meet a cousin.
I thought it was just 4 people in my family until.
I know that because we don't know who's alive and who's not and what we have and what we don't have.
Right.
So
My mom would be so proud.
before coming in here, I'm thinking of our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our parents, and looking down and seeing the family connecting again. You know, Hitler destroyed and separated our family.
But you can take this away.
This he can't take away.
Come on in. Come on in. Meet my wife. This is Lisa. Fred Zivan. Lisa Markowitz.
Hi, Lisa.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
I have so much to show you.
I got things to show you, things to talk about.
I put this in here on purpose because this looks like my grandmother.
But it's your mother.
Yes, it is. Gucha.
I see similarities to my mother.
You do?
Yeah. Well, actually, no, they're first cousins. Yeah.
Growing up, were you micromanaged by your parents?
The opposite. Yeah. They never looked at grades or homework.
Father was strict. Somebody today might say it was abusive. But my father, my parents, and my mother didn't know any different. Their adolescent years were spent
right
at the butt of a gun.
Mine was different. I was more, I would say it sounds ridiculous, like a family pet, as long as my mother knew I was okay. You know, and I was fed. Right. You know, then she was okay. That was it.
The funny thing about my experience is I ended up being who I am despite what I went through.
Yes, that's the Kochman will. Oh my God.
What do you see?
My parents and my aunt in Bergen-Belsen.
No way. What do you read on the back?
Bergen-Belsen. Wow.
Well, they got a year?
I've never.
Is there a year here on the back?
Yeah. There's something different. Discovering this photo here with you, which I've only seen from a collection of my parents and Manya's. It's obvious they were all together.
This is unbelievable. You sent me that picture. Here I am, 60 years old, for the first time seeing my grandmother.
Your mother did have relatives, and you may have more relatives out there.
Right.
I'll be looking.
Have you ever heard the theory of social Darwinism?
Yeah.
That it's the survival of the strongest who wins. And Hitler bought into that ideology.
Stephen called me out of the blue one day and said, I have started this organization that I'm really passionate about, the Matseva Foundation. He's going to Poland and he is restoring cemeteries that have been destroyed. All he's trying to do is perform this act of reconciliation between the Jewish community, the Christian church, and Poland. Jan is a journalist and Stephen is a minister, and I had been speaking to both of them about Poland, and so we decided that they would co-teach a class.
The Germans considered the Poles people who to be enslaved. Oh. They were just a few rungs above Jews.
It's a class that is from the lens of what the Polish communities were like before the war and what Poland is like today. It asks the question, what is it that we can do now to leave this world a better place for the next generation?
Sometimes when I talk to people who have their roots, Jews who have their roots in Poland, there's a very strong visceral response that Poland is a place of death. It's a graveyard. Why should I go back? And there's no Jewish life there. But I work with Jewish life there.
In that pond is my family. That's where my grandparents are, my aunts and my uncles.
What do you think about that right now?
I'm tearing up now, but I was speechless. You know, I caught up to them, and for the first time in my life, it's like, it sounds strange, but, you know, here they are.
Why do you think that sounds strange?
Because it's a pond, and there's thousands, millions of Jews, perhaps, you know, all in there.
But what other milestones led you to that grave?
That cemetery in Chelaj. I walk in and I'm saying to myself, wow, this is nice. Suddenly I see a large swastika on one of these tall headstones.
Do you know if anything was done?
No, but when I go back, I'm going to go see if it's still there.
Why are you going back?
To Poland? To clean up the Radomsko cemetery. I discovered my great-grandparents are buried there. And the cemetery is in bad shape, just like many of them are.
You know, in Poland there are anywhere between 12 and 1,500 cemeteries like that. You came to the place at Auschwitz where you connected with your family. This is where they are. And you recognize something that you didn't recognize before. That's what reconciliation is. Reconciliation, in its basic sense, means to bring together broken pieces, to restore, to unite, to rejoin. Okay. This is what happened. Now I'm here, just like you did when you shared the photograph of you standing there in the ash pit.
Here's a cemetery. Now it's being neglected and disrespected by being left alone.
Well, let's do something about it.
Yeah, let's go. This is my family street, my ancestors. This is where they went to school, they went to synagogue. They erased the whole family, the memory.
I can't even imagine what that must feel like to have a whole generation wiped out.
It's very emotional, for one thing. It's extremely sad.
But take hope, take joy in the fact that you're returning to reclaim that.
I have photos of the graves of my great aunt and 3 great grandparents.
and a researcher in Warsaw sent me a map and GPS coordinates to locate all of the graves.
.43 is right there. That's your great-grandparent. Right there.
My great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
Can I help make the path?
Czy on pomagać wam przy robieniu?
My zrobimy przejście jakieś tego.
He wants to open the way for you
A wy
only.
szukajcie.
This is the original resting place of your great-grandfather. Jakub Zew Berenzweig. Tak, to kobieta Miriam Berenzweig. He found your ad. Miriam, yes. All right. You want to go see Miriam?
Not right now.
He wants to remain here for a minute by himself. We'll go find the other 2 locations. This is her. Miriam. Berenzweig.
My guess is my Aunt Sala Berensweig, great Aunt Sala, put these in here because I have a photo of her standing right next to it. I feel like I'm looking after my great-grandfather. Kind of like if he was in a wheelchair, 113 years old.
Okay, we need to find Hanna Kobieta. So who is Hanna?
My grandmother, great-grandmother.
Okay, his great-grandmother, Hanna.
Hanna Primeta?
Yes,
Berenzweig.
Tak, obok siebie, tylko wie pan...
We have 3 now.
17, kobieta, I to jest 16.
This is his great-grandmother, Hanna. This is his moment to connect. Working in the dirt with your hands is very intimate. We need to be pathfinders and open the way so that Fred can, with tender, loving care, express that to his great-grandparents and his aunt.
I think we're making good progress. If you go look over here, compared to what it was, it's fantastic. But we'll get the rest. Not to worry. You either. We'll get you. Here.
We got it. We got all 4. This is Jakub Seidman, his great-grandfather. Hey, Fred. What? I have a plan to help you. Take as much time as you have, but you have 2 days to do what you're doing right now.
Okay.
So if you do 2 today like that, and do 2 tomorrow, then you'll walk away with something very good.
Okay.
Very powerful.
All right. Thank you.
Cool.
All right, so what's next?
We know where all 4 points are, all 4 graves. The closest one is here.
Okay, so why don't we start on that?
This tree is growing into this matseva, so this was a clue here. Then the shape of this was a clue, plus the paint, plus that mark. That's how I found this.
My great-grandfather, Koppel Zeidman. It's surreal. It's kind of exhilarating. That's what I'm feeling. I'm looking after him.
Your great-grandparents, their grandchildren and children, some of them were murdered, some of them were executed. And so you're actually doing the mitzvah that they would have been doing. That's what you've come to replace. You're in the presence of your family. They stood here.
Very aware of that.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
100%.
You now know where your 2 great-grandfathers are.
Yes.
Let's go meet your great-grandmother and your aunt.
Party captain.
I'm not the captain. I'm just the bus driver. Okay. This is Miriam.
My great-aunt.
Yes. This is hers.
My grandmother's sister. Okay. Why don't I start cleaning?
great-grandmother? Anna.
It's a beautiful headstone. Here I am. I'm with my great-grandmother, and I have arrived. The great-grandson has arrived. I've accomplished a major goal. I don't think I wanted to go through my whole life without connecting with my ancestry, with my great-grandmother, great-grandfather. What comes to mind is feeling more of a whole person.
And now you have two endpoints. Your life and their life, and what happened in between is what you're trying to understand. Is that correct?
Sure.
Do you think you can do that today?
No. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't.
But you have a start. And then you have you and your life.
There's still a gap there.
What is that gap?
My grandparents and aunts and uncles. Photos would help.
Something concrete?
Something concrete. I know my parents had a deep loss. Yeah, I inherited it. I think what I'm trying to do is ease their pain even though they're dead.
The fact is that he put his hand to clear away undergrowth is a very physical, practical, tangible way to deal with that tragedy, that loss in his family's life. Because his parents, they never dealt with their loss, and he's dealing with it now for them.
Dziękuję.
Również dziękuję.
I sense the presence of my father. It's with me. It's all with me. I'm with my family. There's no grieving. It's a get-together. It's a reunion.
There's a mass grave of 1,700 Jews that were murdered from this town.
Yes.
Near the front gate. There's also, in that number, 50 righteous Gentiles who were murdered because they harbored the Jews. What would it look like if we did some cleaning up there? Okay?
And we cleared a path to not only my great-grandparents, but a path where 50 heroic Poles were massacred together with the Jews. I was pleasantly surprised to see the 3 Poles who helped clean that cemetery. It was very meaningful to them. You prepared me psychologically for my experience, because I had high expectations.
What were your expectations?
That I'm saving the memory and the integrity of my family.
That's awesome. You see life instead of death. I've seen you change. And I just want you to know that.
Am I better looking? Yeah, I'm
Wait,
kidding.
wait. Am I?
Oh, yeah. I mean, since I first saw you on this trip, you're much better looking.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can actually look at you.
Bye.
I made a decision that if I can't get a photo on this trip, I would love to have the signatures of my grandparents. There was only one birth certificate that wasn't transferred to the State Archive, and that was of my Aunt Kurtla. And here I found my grandmother's signature. I did something different. I ran my finger across my grandmother's signature. My grandmother. And then moved my fingers around the circle where I thought she had held the page. It may not sound like much to anybody else, but for me, that meant a lot. The last time I was here, I made a promise that I would return and make sure that the graffiti was removed. I took my time and checked each one of them. I inched forward, kind of. Uh-oh, am I going to see that
swastika? Am I going to see Hitler?
There it is. It's still there. It's still there.
Instead, there's a lot more. And I noticed at least a half a dozen swastikas and other markings. And I took a photo at this time. There's another one right here. And I went to get the lady who opens the gate, and we took a nice walk all the way down to the very end, and all the way back. I'm pointing, and she's acknowledging yes. And she even saw it on her own.
Dużo.
The gatekeeper is aware of it. I have it on film, and I'll go straight to the police.
We know where this cemetery, we know.
Okay.
On this one, with show. Okay. This one says Hitler. You see?
He was looking, and then there were some symbols that made him stop and make some kind of sound like, whoa, okay, I understand, this is bad.
Benzene. This picture in your phone, please send this mail.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. This is something that I think they're going to really take seriously and take care of it right away.
Thank you for your information regarding the destruction of graves. We will take care of this.
I did what I had to do. I was told the offense is a criminal offense and that there's a fine, and if the perpetrator didn't pay the fine, it's jail time. If it weren't for Adam, I wouldn't have the birth certificates of my aunts and uncles.
I think it's pretty good. So if I can get a photo of my grandparents.
I don't think so.
No?
That we have photos from ghetto. They lived in Belgium, or they were just in ghetto in Belgium?
No, they lived in Belgium. My father lived in Belgium.
Maybe we can start from books of citizens, okay?
Yeah.
So if you find some information about your family there, there will be information about their births.
Okay.
I will transfer you that books to the computer, and you will check.
Okay. So we proceeded to check to see if there are any records, any home addresses for my father's side of the family, the Seidmans. I didn't find anything. I'm very disappointed. I think I've exhausted almost every means of finding photos of my grandparents.
Everything maybe is in Domdom.
Unfortunately, I have nothing about your mother. We have a birth certificate of this guy, Wolfberg Kożuch.
Wolf is my grandmother's brother.
There is one street where Wolf lived there, Stefana Okrzej Street.
You have a number or just the street?
Yes, there is a number.
Struck silver. The neighbors helped me locate the spot.
It doesn't exist at this moment.
A married couple took me to the place where the building had stood. It was an empty strip, straight down. And that's where the row of buildings had been. I accepted it. This is what had happened. And
I learned how to deal with my emotions. The first trip, I got it all out, all the anger and the sadness and the frustrations and everything that I have been carrying with me.
Yes, and then next to this block, it could be.
And so I was able to fantasize my grandparents visiting with my mother and the other kids. So I was able to move forward, I was able to reconcile.
Privilege to be acknowledged as one who is taking part in something that's very unique and very special, and to pass that on to the next generation of Jews. It's pretty cool that I'm a Christian and get to do something like that.
Adam, you gave me permission to bring photos of my parents from Benjamin and put it on your wall. Return to Benjamin. It was a very moving moment. Seeing my parents back in Benjamin in that cafe, it's going to be there hopefully forever. So there they are, you know, they're back.
What if you never find a photo of your grandparents?
I don't think about that. I always feel I'm going to find it, and I'll never stop looking for it.